Well, June's busting out all over, and that includes artifacts. Changes include a fond farewell, couple introductions, plus poetry, bugs, and big bucks for arts education. Stay tuned for Artifacts next. Hello, I'm Phill Lindsay, and yes, there are some significant changes in the Artifacts format. First, Janet Zahn has left the building, eyeing her way to the private sector. She will be my first guest today, however, an exit interview of sorts. We'll talk also with Judy Hornbacher, who's helping corral big money for a major arts education initiative in the Minneapolis schools. Also, a dynamic, engaging artist and gallery owner, Kellie Rae Theiss, will be with us. We'll be looking at some art and get down on the changing gallery scene in the Warehouse District. We then have poet Gary Melom joining us in our regular performance spot, and we'll preview the Juneteenth Film Festival, which leads me to mention one of our new features. Each month we like to screen a few minutes of a film or video as a work of art, and with Janet's departure we invited Benno of the Minneapolis Office of Film, Video, and Recording to set up our clip. And we're also going to try out a new feature. We're going to have a roving arts reporter. Let's introduce Gina Filigenzi. Hi, Gina.
Hi, Phil.
Welcome to Artifacts.
Thank you.
That's great. Now, a little background on you. You are a Minneapolis native.
Yes, I am. Born and raised.
Born and raised. Went to school here?
I went to Washburn High School.
Okay,
South
so you're
Minneapolis.
South Minneapolitan, and you also work with the city of Minneapolis.
I do. I work in the Information and Technology Services Department.
Now, what does that mean?
Well, I work in the telecom division, so I'm responsible for the city's phone system. We support about 3,000 users with their phones, voicemail, call processing applications, all the good technology stuff.
Right, and that's a private system?
Yes, it is. It's a private phone system.
So you get to listen in on everybody's conversations?
In my spare time.
That sounds fun. Now, what we're going to do, Gina's agreed to go out on location for us and get some information about things that are going on in the arts.
Yeah, Phil. I'll be going out and talking with people, maybe going behind the scenes, bringing Artifacts viewers some background on the arts in Minneapolis.
Oh, we look forward to that. Thanks, Gina.
Thank you.
Now, Artifacts' erstwhile co-host, Janet Zahn, is up next, right after this look at our first screen moments together. And we're very excited with this edition of Artifacts to start some new features here. Most of all, I'd like to welcome Janet Zahn. Those of you who've been in the city of Minneapolis watching City Cable 34, you've been lucky enough to see her for the last few years as the host and producer of Sound Image, a show that's taken a look at the film, video, and recording industries here in the Minneapolis area. And with this edition of Artifacts, she's joining us as a co-host and producer of segments that relate to those industries.
That's right.
Welcome, Janet.
Thank you, Phil.
And she's bringing her considerable talents to the show. And we're looking forward to some new segments as the year goes on. We're talking about maybe having more frequent new episodes. We're talking about going on location more, adding a little bit of fun, and of course emphasizing the film and recording industry. So look forward to some changes here in Artifacts. What you just saw was actually our first screen moments together with my next guest, Janet Zahn, who has left the building. Janet Zahn, it's a thrill actually to have you back in the building.
Why, thank you. It's good to be back.
Well, it's nice to have you here, and actually we're locking the doors. We want you to stay for a while, but as loyal viewers of Artifacts will know that for 5+ years, Janet and I co-hosted this and co-produced Artifacts, and you have moved on to the private sector.
I have.
Are you excited?
I'm very excited.
That's great.
I'm going to be working at Gentleman Media Group.
And as some of my friends out in the industry say, that's a big operation.
It is. They have over 100 people there now. They have really, really grown.
Yeah, now how old a firm is that? Have they been around forever, or are they recently new?
Actually, I believe they're celebrating their 15th anniversary in June, so they've been around for a while.
In that industry, that's kind of venerable, actually.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. And how would you describe the company? What does Gentleman do to, somebody like myself who doesn't really know how to look them up in the yellow pages? They are a...
Well, they're actually what I would describe it as kind of a one-stop shop for clients who need to create some kind of communications tool that they're going to be using. And they not only can provide the product, but they can also provide assistance in scripting and creative solutions. The actual division that I'm going to work in is called the Creative Solutions Division. So a client really can come to Gentleman, and from soup to nuts, script to screen, they can get it all right there. And it's kind of the convergence thing that's happening. That's the word, is convergence. But all of those media solutions that people can use, you can get them.
Every element, and it really is a one-stop shop. That's great. And that's in the Minneapolis Warehouse District.
That's right.
So you're still downtown?
I'm still downtown.
Now, it occurred to me when we knew you were going to come on and we're going to have this exit interview, some of our viewers may not actually know what you did for 9 years?
Just a little over 9 years.
9 years at the Office of Film, Video, and Recording, and that's a city office. And obviously there'll be somebody coming in behind you, but
that's right.
What goes on at the
What
Film,
goes
Video, and
on?
Recording Office?
Well, the way I kind of described it as people ask me that many times over the years is there's kind of a big umbrella over the office, and that's economic development. The city had the foresight to see many years ago, 1985, the office was formed, that they wanted a piece of this film production pie because it means jobs, it means tax revenues for the city and for the state, also, and it means there's tourism aspects that seeing Minneapolis on the big screen.
It's a diverse industry.
Right,
Yeah.
and so they saw way back in 1985 that they wanted to have a piece of this. So there's economic development over the entire office, 2 pillars of that. There's the production services. So I provided permits and police officers and worked with neighbors and businesses as film companies came in and worked in neighborhoods, served as liaison between the film companies and the city and the neighborhoods.
Kind of an ombudsperson.
That's right.
Because there's some disruption that goes on.
Yes, there
Lanes of
is.
traffic are blocked or
Yes, there
things
is.
like that.
Well,
yeah.
it's like a corporation coming into a neighborhood for just a couple of days sometimes. You bring in a lot of people, there are trucks, there are things that have to take place.
And they're not working like over the noon hour. I mean, this starts
No.
early in the morning and goes late at night.
It usually does, and it usually, it almost always is a tremendous experience both for the production crew and the neighbors, but you need to let people know what's happening. So that's the one pillar. The other pillar is serving as an advocate and just as an advocate for the industry and working on various issues, working with professional organizations, making sure that the industry has some support so that it's strong and can maintain.
So if there are certain issues in the field,
Right.
you go out, and I know one of them has been, can we get the local big boys to produce their pieces here
Right,
in town?
right.
And from what I hear, that's kind of turning around a little bit lately.
And we especially think it will turn around now that we were successful at the legislature this year.
Well, and that's another part of the advocacy, because I know you spent a lot of time, as did the Film Board
Yes.
and its friends, over there, and there have been some successes recently. Can you just outline
I sure can.
some of that good news?
Oh, we're so excited. It was really a thrill. We had a bill at the legislature this last session, and those of you who are watching Artifacts know about this a little bit anyway, to alleviate the 6.5% sales tax on television commercial production. And that we did that because we need to be competitive. Minnesota needs to be competitive with markets like Dallas, like Phoenix, LA, New York, all of those places. They don't have the sales tax on television commercial.
That.
Yes, and really that's the issue. So if I'm a Minnesota company bidding against a Dallas company, there's a $200,000 job out there. Minnesota puts $14,000 tag at the end of that.
Right.
At the end of that bid, that the Dallas company doesn't have to do. And while agencies, locally have been really, really successful, they're still looking at the bottom line.
Oh, sure.
And it was kind of an invitation for them to go to Dallas for that job.
Right.
So we alleviated that sales tax, and we worked really closely with the advertising agencies, got a lot of support from
And that was
them.
just this legislative
That's
session
right.
that just recently.
finished.
Yeah, well,
So exciting,
congratulations.
yeah.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to guess that the common sense out there is that, well, these big Hollywood companies come into town, and I mean, what the heck, another $14,000, that just buys them a few croissants.
Right.
But that's not really
No.
the main thrust of what's happening, and the folks that are in town, they're doing other things. They're doing commercial productions.
Oh,
so
right.
it's not always those big.
No, the big feature films are welcome here. We love to have them here, but that's the icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Typically it's $8 to $10 million a year, whereas the whole entire homegrown Minnesota industry is $250 million. Commercials are $50 million.
Yeah.
Corporate similar. Companies like Juntman, who are out there in the community working every day, hiring people. That's the base. That's the bread and butter.
So in other words, the clients that you'll be working with and that Juntman works with are these big companies.
Right.
Yeah. Other victories. I mean, you had some good luck with independent contractors. That was a big issue a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, we started in '92, we ended in '94. We were able to work, we changed national policy regarding independent contractors and how the IRS treated independent contractors in the film and video
Now,
industry.
tell our viewers, when you say independent contractors, you mean like the actual talent? Do you also mean the folks behind the cameras and the technical?
Yeah,
and everything?
most people are freelance or independent contractors in the business.
Okay.
And when we started the process, that was not understood by the IRS. They wanted to reclassify those people from independent contractors to employees, which people who run businesses know that makes a big difference in terms of how how you're treated.
Withholding and all kinds of
right, and it makes
issues.
a difference to those people who want to be independent.
Right.
And so we started out, again, with just a tremendous group of people, a coalition from the industry that gathered together and worked really, really hard for 2 years. And we were at the table with the IRS in Washington, D.C., and they wrote a specific policy for
And
our
that changed
industry.
that on a national level.
Absolutely.
Do we
Yeah.
get letters from like Nebraska that say thank you very much? I mean,
Well,
that's
we
good work.
did. Yeah, it was
That's
really
great.
exciting. It was very
That's
exciting.
great. Any issues in the field that remain? I mean, big challenges that you can think of?
Oh, I think that there are some challenges out there just because the industry is changing so fast. It always has.
Yeah, it's a dynamic industry.
It's a real, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and you really have to be top. The technology is changing so quickly, and I think the challenge is for the town and for the film board and for everybody that works in this industry is to try and anticipate what's going to happen next. I know they talked about that at the film board annual meeting. It's like we've been through some rough years in terms of some of the work going out of town. We've always been really proactive, and we just always have to be even more so, I think.
Yeah. Now, some of our viewers may remember that before you joined Artifacts, you had a show that you were doing on your own.
Yes, I did. I did sound image for a couple of years, I think,
Yeah.
before we started.
Pieces of
Yes.
which set
Yes,
our
came
crew
back.
is nice to.
Yeah.
Nothing gets lost here
I know.
in the hallowed halls.
In the hallowed halls.
This is
yeah,
great.
Yeah.
Do you have any fond memories? I mean, you did sound image a number of years. You did this. Any favorite interviews? Any infamous interviews that?
With the infamous Al Milgram. Yes.
Well, you had some great guests on.
I
and
did.
Al was one of them. And
It always surprised me. Oftentimes, even going out to LA, when I would go out for the expo, and there would be people who had moved out there at the Ice Pack event, which is all the Minnesotans who are now working in LA.
Yeah.
There would be so many people that had been on my TV show. I don't know if I can name a favorite, although if I had a little more time to think about it, I probably could. But I have to say my favorite thing has just been working with you.
Oh, that's nice. That's
And working
sweet.
with you and this crew here in City Hall.
Yeah,
It's just
good people.
I have to say, Artifacts was always kind of, it was all, there was always this rush to getting it ready and
Yeah.
getting it done. But every time I would come in here and work with you, and we had so much fun.
We did have fun, and I must
Yes.
say that the general comments I would get, the most comments numerically that I would ever
Yeah.
get, is people said the interaction was always nice. So
Yeah.
it was a swell thing working with you.
Yeah,
and I'll
yeah.
miss that. It
I
was
will
just
too.
great.
I will
yeah.
too.
You've left the building, as I
I've
said.
left it, yes.
You're heading out.
That's true.
Although as we sit and talk, you haven't actually started your job.
No.
You're able to get a few moments to
Time
breathe
off,
in there, which
yes.
is very good. Any advice to the public sector, now that you're stepping into the private sector, for how it ought to be looking at its, now I come from kind of the arts policy point of view. You worked with the film, the recording, the music industries. Any advice to the decision makers and the general polity for how this city can maintain its success in these fields?
Yeah, and I think I'm really proud to say that one of the things that I was able to do over the years that I was here in City Hall is to really build some strong relationships. The film industry is a relationship business. The city needs to continue supporting those relationships. So whoever comes in my stead, hopefully the city will continue to support that person. And then, we have the new Office of Cultural Affairs. My office is supposed to be moving into that place. I hope that, my office can maintain its, autonomy to a certain degree, but also some of that synergy starts happening, and that the for-profit and nonprofit arts are considered as, both viable pieces of this cultural
A large
place.
ecology.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's really important, both nonprofit and for-profit.
Great.
Those are my words of wisdom.
Parting words of wisdom.
Yes.
Janet, a pleasure to have you on. We'll miss you.
Oh, I'll miss
Don't
you
be a
too,
stranger.
Phil. I won't.
Okay.
Thanks.
Great. Well, now, Benno Nelson from the Office of Film, Video, and Recording will be back to talk about this month's video piece right after a look at Janet Zahn introducing her original program here on City Cable 34, Sound Image. Stay tuned.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sound Image, the television show, which is brought to you by the Minneapolis Office of Film, Video, and Recording. I'm Janet Zahn, the new coordinator of that office, having replaced the multi-talented Randy Adamsick, who is now the executive director of the Minnesota State Film Board. And speaking of talent, that's what this show is all about. There are thousands of very talented people in this town who are working in the film, video, and recording industries. And every time you see this show, you are going to see some samples of that talent. And we're going to start right now. Roll the tape.
Okay. Well, that was a look at Janet actually introducing her sound image show from all these many years ago. Sitting with me now, Benno Nelson, who does happen to work in the Minneapolis Office of Film, Video, and Recording. And we were just talking about the fact that you're kind of in there where Janet used to be, and you're answering the phone and taking care of business there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Rebecca Bryden, the assistant formerly before myself.
Oh, that's right too, yeah.
She's come in, and the both of us are trying desperately to, well, we're keeping the office afloat for sure, but it's...
Oh, that's great.
It's just covering until somebody else is appointed.
Well, and we've asked Benno to come in because every month we like to have a video clip and something of an extended video, because the film or video production, this is an important art form in and of itself. So you were nice enough to arrange a very interesting looking piece this month for us. Can you just set it up for us and then we'll take a look?
Sure. It's called An American Love Story, and it's produced and directed by Jennifer Fox. And it's kind of it is a documentary about a biracial couple living in New York, and kind of like a long span of their time. And they have 2 daughters that are obviously biracial, and so this clip kind of is, I believe, is the daughters talking about what that's like, and it's just kind of exploring like biracial couples and their children.
And some acceptance issues from what I've seen. Okay,
Yeah.
let's take a look and we'll be back and talk a little bit more about it in a minute. So stay tuned.
I mean, we just looked out the window and they're all, hi, how you doing, where are you from? And we're like, New York, and we thought they were crazy, you know, because if you did that here, it's like, you're crazy or something. And it's like a law or something, you have to be friendly. It's, everybody says hello, how you doing, everybody.
I hated Colgate. I hated being there. I hated the race relation, segregation, how bad I felt. The white students, the black students, they had the wrong idea about life. I needed the African American community support at school, but they didn't want to give that to me.
My freshman year in college, a girl was telling me about, we were talking and I was telling her about my mom and dad because she saw pictures of them and stuff. And she's like, well, that's not natural. Something's wrong with your dad because he wants to marry a white woman. That's just, she told me this to my face, and I'm just like, you know, I was really out of control. I was just like, whoa. She's just like not all normal about it, like nothing ever happened. Like she wasn't even insulting me, you know, like trying to say you're abnormal, your parents are sick and mentally ill, and you know, but that's what happened, and I was really upset about that.
To MacArthur himself that received the formal Japanese surrender in Tokyo on August 30th.
Me trying to become a part of the African American community seemed like it made my relationship with them even worse. So I connected with the women because I didn't connect with the African American students.
Hi. Hi. Catherine Wendell. Hi there. We're good. Thanks, Catherine.
I joined a sorority. It was a big deal. At school, that was a big deal. Because I was black. That was a big deal. I'm a girl. I'm joining a sorority. What's wrong? I don't know if it's comparable to Mom going out with Dad. Is that a big deal? That was a big deal. My mom was like, why do you have to do this? Why do you want to do this?
I don't have a clue what her life is like. How could I? I can understand what she's saying, but not understand what she's going through. The reality of it is, I'm never going to face that. I will face what people do to us as a unit, but to know that feeling, I won't know it.
Well, to me, that was pretty strong stuff, and I'm looking forward to seeing the whole thing. Now, this is part of a large festival that's going on this month.
The Juneteenth festival, which is, if I make sure I get June 11th through the 20th.
Right, and Juneteenth as a general festival has a number of elements. I think they have live music and things. And this is part of a film festival, what, at the Walker?
The Walker is co-sponsoring with IFP North, which is a local organization, actually part of a national organization that helps independent filmmakers and whatnot. So I think they're kind of co-sponsoring at the Walker. It's all being held at the Walker.
Okay, so that's the venue. And as I understand it from something I think you provided me, this is like the 10th anniversary, 10th year that they've been doing this. So that's good.
Yeah.
If people want to know a little bit more about like the film schedule, they could call...
They call the Walker, which is 375-7622.
Very good. So Benno, thank you very much, and we'll look forward next month to another clip highlighting the good work that's going on in the industry.
Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Phil.
That's great. Now, I'll be back with some news right after this art fact. Stay tuned. A new art gallery opens this month in downtown Minneapolis. It's called Boom Gallery. An interesting fact is that the operator is a senior at the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. Minnesota native Jesse White will provide a venue for new and emerging local visual artists. Boom Gallery is at 923 Nicollet Mall above the Laurie Booksellers. The venue's first exhibition features drawings by Allison Stout. Theater director Larry Whiteley died last month in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. From the 1970s to the early 90s, he directed dozens of shows at Theater and the Round Players on the West Bank in Minneapolis and at Chimera Theater in downtown St. Paul, as well as numerous other local theaters. A graduate of Minneapolis' Roosevelt High School and Hamline University in St. Paul, Whiteley worked in New York theater in the latter 60s. Returning to the Twin Cities, he was a sought-after director not only by many theaters, but also by local actors, many of whom felt that working with Larry Whiteley would help them develop as artists. He was 63 years old. And the Minneapolis Arts Commission announces the latest Art in the Mayor's Office exhibit. An exhibition of work by Emily M. Allen entitled Oil on Canvas is on view through the 30th of June. The location actually is the mayor's conference room next to her office, and officials ask that you call ahead for viewing appointments between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. The number to call is 612-673-2100. And that's the Artifacts Arts Bits for June 1999. Up next, Judy Hornbacher and I will talk about big bucks for arts education right after this art quote. Congratulations. Well, I want to thank the Chair of the Federal Reserve. I thought those were very pertinent remarks, and that gives us a nice segue into our next conversation, which is about arts education. Judy Hornbacher helps lead the Annenberg Challenge, and we're going to get all the details about that, and this is through the Minneapolis Public Schools. Judy, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Now, when I started hearing, I think a couple years ago, about this Annenberg Challenge, big buzz about this, and big bucks, let's face it.
Right.
But let's set some groundwork here for people. Annenberg Challenge, now this comes out of the Annenberg Foundation. So tell us a little bit, kind of frame what this challenge is.
All right. The Walter Annenberg Foundation, Walter Annenberg of TV Guide fame.
Right, 17 Magazine, Publishing Empire.
Yes, right, that's right. Has given about, or will have given about $500 million to 17 projects around the country for the purpose of school reform.
Now that's billion with a B.
Billion with a B, billion with a B. His premise is that public and private partners need to work together if public schools are to succeed. So there are, as I said, 17 challenge grants around the country. They've been going on for several years. Minneapolis received theirs in the summer of 1997. There are 3 projects in the country that are focused exclusively on the arts, using the arts as the agent of change in a school district, a primary tool for reform.
Well, now for you and me, this seems obvious, but the point is that not all of those 17 are focused on arts.
Only
but here
3.
Here in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis, New York, and then there's a combination project with the Getty Foundation.
Oh, okay. So that puts us in pretty big leagues here.
Pretty big leagues, pretty good company.
Congratulations.
Right.
How do they pick Minneapolis?
David O'Fallon, who is the executive director of the Lola Rudy Perpich Center for Arts Education, through
it's hard
to get that all out.
On a business card.
You know, he worked with the National Endowment for the Arts, and he worked with people from Annenberg through some things he did there at the Kennedy Center. And so through, time and the tides, he started working with Peter Hutchinson, the former superintendent of Minneapolis Public Schools. And they applied officially for the funds from Annenberg.
Okay.
So, and that's really how it came to
And then the
Minneapolis.
partnership you're referring to is with his Center for Arts Education and the Minneapolis Public Schools.
That's right. Uh-huh.
So that's the binary team there.
That's right.
And what are the goals? What are you all expected to do? I know part of it's fundraising, but then there's the, I guess what I'd call kind of the pedagogical, there's the curriculum aspect. So
the goal for us is, one sentence, is to improve student achievement in and through the arts. Using the arts, both arts instruction, music, art, dance, and infusing the arts into the curriculum of classrooms as a strategy for engaging kids and helping them improve their achievement. Okay?
That's good. That's a good one-sentence description. Yeah. Now, how does that play out out in the field at Sheridan School or Ramsey here? The schools in Minneapolis where this has to happen.
The design of this is fairly simple. The execution is not simple, but the design is simple. We receive the grants, we receive the money, we have to match it dollar for dollar with private funds and public funds.
So it's a 1-to-1 match?
It's really a 2-to-1 match.
With
private and public. So public has to put in, the school district and other public agencies have to match dollar for dollar, and then we have to raise private dollars dollar for dollar with the Annenberg gift.
So there's the challenge.
There's the challenge. That is the challenge.
Yeah.
It is a substantial challenge for the school district.
And
to
from
do
something
that.
you were saying as we just sat down here, you're well on your way to meeting that part of the challenge.
That's right. We need to raise $3.2 million in private funds, and we've raised $2.3 million.
Congratulations.
In private funds. So, and it's a challenge for the fundraising community as well. McKnight has come in with $1 million, which is a major departure for them.
I call that a leadership gift.
That's the leadership gift. It's a major leadership gift.
Anything with 2 commas in it, that's a leadership gift. Yeah.
So as I started to answer, the design of it in the school district is that we sent out RFPs, requests for proposals, to all the schools in the district. That's 104 sites.
Okay, so let me make this point. That's not just the arts magnet schools, that's every school.
No, that's every school, every school in the city.
All right.
And we received many proposals. We started out this year with 31 sites that designed their project within the parameters that we set up. And the parameters are that you have to be working with a team in your building and with an artist or arts organization in the community. So the object is for us to be working in our schools with artists and arts organizations in this community. And that our belief is that that's going to improve, it's going to improve things in the school, it's going to improve and change teaching, and it will work to the benefit of kids.
Will the artists and the arts organizations that come into the schools, will they then, and I guess you're really implying this, will they be working with the teachers on curriculum, or is it more that, in my old day when I would perform, I was kind of just brought in and there was a day off for the teacher and hey, go perform.
No, it's
integrated.
We're working toward a change in that residency model, which is what you're describing. Where the artist comes and does their wonderful thing, and then they go away, and it's good. I mean, it's a wonderful model that is still very much needed and very, very much of value, but we're working toward a more integrated experience. So that, for instance, if you were the artist and we were going to work on juggling, say, the Phill Lindsay thing, okay?
What a concept.
What a concept. Before, you wouldn't just come in and do it. You would come in and sit with a 3rd grade team of teachers and the art teacher from that school or the music teacher from that school, and you would look at the curriculum of that school. In the 3rd grade, you'd look at the test scores in that school and you'd say, we want this to be a complete package. We want this to be part of the whole that we work on in this school. So an example at Waite Park School up on the north side, their goal was to, they had several goals in their project, one of which was to improve student expression in reading.
Okay.
Okay, so they worked with Climb Theater in the 3rd grade, and they built the project from those parameters. So it wasn't just Climb Theater coming in and doing one thing that they do.
And that they go out and replicate school after school.
No,
This is tied
this was
directly
tailored.
into that school's
It was tailored for
mission.
that school. Tailored to that school.
Great.
And then what we're seeing happening is that then other teachers come and they see that this is really interesting. Other artists find that this is a very, very productive way to work. And it teaches them more about teaching and about schools and what goes on in schools. So there's a synergy that occurs in these sites that's really thrilling. It's just really
And you're
thrilling.
speaking as someone who's actually seen some of this in action.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we have 31 sites that have are completing their first full year of implementation.
Okay, I was going to ask about the timeline. So, I mean, the fundraising is an ongoing thing.
It's an ongoing thing.
And the actual in-school activities have already started.
That's right.
How long does this go out into the future?
The grant from Annenberg is a 4-year grant.
Okay.
And this is the end of the first year. But we actually have 4 years to raise the money, but we have 5 years to do the project.
So they give you a
We're
little
actually-
lead in there.
Because you have to, I've always called it building the bicycle while riding it, because you get the grant and you have to start the programming and you raise the money and all those things.
You start
all
with a
at once.
unicycle
You
and throw in that extra
we
wheel.
get this second wheel on there somehow, and the sprocket. So
it's a good image. I like it. It's a good visual image.
It's a good visual image. So that's what we've been doing this year.
Wow.
But the schools don't have to deal with that fundraising. Okay.
Yeah.
They
So
get
that's
their
not a
grants
burden
and
to the schools.
It's not a burden to the schools.
Right.
It's just that's our little problem to go deal with.
Right. And when you say you're actually working with a team of pretty qualified folks. There's a small but just elegant group of you, right?
Well, that's a nice way to put it, sure. I mean, it started out with just me, all right, and Maureen Bazinet, who's the Director of Development for the district.
Which means money, fundraising.
Fundraising, and we have a design team, a governing board, and a research team. So there's a very large...
It's a good community input that way.
Oh, yeah. There's a huge research component to this project. We work with the University of Minnesota, CARI it's called, the Center for Applied Research and Educational Improvement. And we work with them constantly on doing assessments. They are doing assessments in the schools. So you have certain kinds of questions you want to answer. Right. Does infusing the arts into the curriculum help student achievement? I mean, it's a very fundamental question.
Yeah.
You don't want to just say, well, we think this is good, so let's just do it. That's something
just
that's
because
true.
Walter's throwing the money there, let's make sure it's useful.
So what are we seeing? So we're doing mid-year assessments on all the schools. There are 8 pilot sites, case study sites that the university spends enormous amounts of time with, so lots of things.
Well, Judy, we've got just a moment left, and I know that this month, in June, you've got an urban retreat. Can you just very briefly tell us what that's about? And I should disclose the fact that I'm going to be one of the presenters there, but it's your party there. What is that about?
It's called Urban Retreat for the Arts. It's 3 days, June 16th, 17th, and 18th at North Community High School.
Right.
And we sent out requests for people to present best practices, examples from schools in Minneapolis and St. Paul that have been doing this kind of arts infusion, working with artists in this more unique kind of way. There are arts organizations who are doing things that involve teachers and other artists in their art form. We have art making, we have tours. There are, as I said, over 90 sessions in the 3 days.
And it sounds very interactive.
Very interactive, that's the goal.
Judy, I'm sorry we're out of time. Sounds like a great project.
Okay, thanks.
Continued good luck.
Okay, thanks, Phil.
Great.
Okay, bye.
Now, the classical Kellie Rae Theiss is coming up right after this proof that television is a demanding business. Watch carefully.
So I was playing baseball with my husband Jeff and my stepson Eric, who is 13 years old and learning to be a pitcher. And I was the catcher. Next thing you know, fast, low-flying pitch bounces off the home base plate, and it bounced right into my eye. Thus, the big shiner. I can do it. We'll just do the show with the shiner, and such is life.
And this is a true hair. Well, that just proves in my mind that Janet Zahn is a real trooper, if not a great catcher. Now, my next guest also is a brave soul, venturing into art and business somewhat against convention. I want to introduce and welcome Kellie Rae Theiss. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And when I say a little bit about against convention, and that is because the art that you both do as an artist and in the show that's up at your gallery is what we'd call realistic or classical. Am I right?
And a little bit surrealistic, yes.
A little bit what?
Surrealism.
You get
with
into
a
the
little
surreal?
bit.
Okay.
A little bit. Yeah.
And you were nice enough. Let's just jump right into some of the art you've got here, and we'll talk about your gallery. You brought some wonderful images, most of which I think are created by yourself.
Yes, this is the exhibit that is up right now.
Through the month of June.
And yes, through the month of June until July 1st, and it is botanicals and birds and insects.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. And do you want to just talk with us about some of the things we're looking at?
This is a bird of paradise, and this whole body of work was put together in the last 18 months, and none of which was shown until Saturday, the show that you came to. And it's just, I like painting. Most of the pieces are chiaroscuro in style, and
yes, and so now right away you're using classical language with chiaroscuro, which is that something that most artists that are in the avant-garde are doing? That's not
well, I think
typical, is it?
It may not. It's just your particular style. I like it because it singles out what you're painting, and your focus is on the object and not on anything else around it. And that's what I was trying to find when I do the botanicals or the birds. I want them to look specifically and to see the personality. And so
right, and we're going to look at a bug later.
Yeah.
But on this particular piece, because it was fascinating talking with you at your opening, you do some wonderful work with gesso. You have discovered what your favorite kind of gesso to work with.
Yeah, I went to a workshop last December, Frank Covino workshop, which was 1 week in Utah, and he is an old master, and he has recipes for paints that just come off the top of his head. This man is 70 years old, and he's just a genius. But the gesso he introduced me to is a marble gesso with all organic polymers, and I really appreciate it when you sand it. It's very porous, and I can do underpaintings, and if doing an underpainting, it's there and it's more permanent. And if the painting, while I'm painting, starts to go in a direction I don't want it to, I can take it off, I can sand it out. And I want to say, not in the true sense of the word, but it's like a fresco because it's so deep.
It adheres, it really is. And when you say marble, you actually mean marble dust.
Marble dust.
Which, and again, that is not conventional usage these days.
No.
Yeah, people are using synthetics.
They're using a different, I think, I can't name products,
No,
here.
But still, you've gone back to a more classical material in that case.
What it's made with now is eggshell and polymers, and it's not.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, this is a lovely piece, and you were able to bring another. Here's one of your birds, I see.
Yes, and I have. This is a titmouse, and the same. Am I?
No, that's just great, and hold it there for a moment.
Okay.
One of the things I love about this is the detail in here, and I'm hoping our camera can capture it well enough, but the fine feathering and brushwork you've done in there. Now, what inspired you? Why a titmouse?
You know, I have birds in the back, and I also have a place that I paint at up north, and I have a huge bird feeder, and I just love to watch them, and so birds.
So the birds are in your realm, and you like that. And now, here's a lovely piece. I'm going to hand this to you, and maybe you can hold this up as well. Now, this is one of your tiny ones.
This is my tiny one, and this is a true cricket. And I know you said earlier that bugs really don't turn you on, but I
don't collect them like some people I know.
I do collect, and I have boxes of bugs on the walls in my home. And they're really wonderful. The design.
I want to make sure that the camera actually gets in there while you're talking.
No, just the designs, and you can look at something and so close and see these incredible designs.
Yeah, well, they are beautiful. I mean, I grant that. Now, you call this a true cricket, as opposed to some of these phonies that are running around?
No, they're Jerusalem crickets. They're all kinds of crickets. This is the true cricket, European cricket. That's
okay.
Yeah.
So the Europeans claim the true cricket.
Right.
And where? The Mideast gets the Jerusalem cricket? I don't know understand how that goes.
I think so. I think so, yeah.
Well, and then a wonderful thing here that I'm sure our viewers have been kind of looking at as the camera's panning around here. This happens not to be a piece by Kellie Rae Theiss, but one of the artists that you represent.
Right. This is an artist, Kelly Knoll, who is from Montana. She was schooled in Montana and also in San Francisco. And living here now, just fabulous works. And her rabbits, I say, are not cute. And this is one of the smaller rabbits that I brought in. They're not cute. They are magnificent. Some of them are smug. Some of them are bored. Some of them are haughty. They all have a little bit of an attitude. But this is just an example of some of the
I have to say, and I mean no disrespect, but if I was a rabbit, a hare, and I had a fish in my back, I'd have an attitude as well. This is really gorgeous. Again, I hope our cameras are getting in here because the detail work, very expressive. Now, you have a gallery in the Minneapolis Warehouse District, and it is the Kellie Rae Theiss Gallery.
Kellie Rae Theiss Gallery. We opened 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago. That would be in August. And I'm carrying local and regional talent in the Twin Cities. I'm real excited to be doing this, and it's been a little bit of a challenge moving from artist to a gallery owner, but I'm having a great time.
Now, why did you do that? Well, I mean, because one of the things I was amazed at is the tremendous show that you've got up now, which is your art. And I asked you over how, well, I sincerely mean that. It was very nice art. And then when I asked you over what stretch of time did you produce all this, and you said 18 months. You're obviously prolific in the studio. When do you get time, and what drove you to open a gallery?
Wow. You know, I think I was in the Wyman building 2 years before I did it, and it was just looking around in the art community. Minneapolis has so much talent, and so many incredible artists. There could be 20 galleries that open and still not represent all the talent that we
Good
have
point.
here.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm moving slowly, and I want to remain, you know, somewhat small for right now, so that I can continue to paint.
Yeah.
But we're down there, and it's really, we have a good stable of artists. And
can you rattle off a few names of the other folks you represent?
yeah.
Because I know that obviously this particular artist here, it's not a requirement that they be named Kelly, is it?
No.
Okay, because that's 2 out of 2 so far.
Margarita Diwali was the last show, just gorgeous size-enhanced florals. And Margarita's from St. Petersburg, Russia. She did get her formal training there. She is living here now. Another artist, Heidi Poi, she is from Switzerland. She is living here now. Fabulous, prolific artist and painter, a lot of energy. I have Stan Olson Fellows, who is living in Iowa, did live here and taught at MCAD. And he's a watercolorist that and the guy could do stand-up comedy, but it just comes through in his paintings. They're just wonderful. Sean Kruger, who is also a landscape artist and just fabulous. And another artist, Teresa Handy, who I have to mention because I am just jealous of her work. And
Is that good?
Oh, it is. And
high praise coming from another artist.
Oh, yeah.
Now, are most of them as you are in the neoclassical mode, or different expressions?
No, I think that they are. And you know, you had mentioned this earlier, and I think that you know, my reason for staying in that particular arena and not really giving it a lot of thought before you asked me, but I think I understand it fundamentally. I mean, fundamentally I understand it. Supporting it, I think that I'm a better person for the buyer and a better person for the artist.
Sure, because you know both sides of the whole equation.
Right.
That's great. Now, you mentioned some of these artists had been trained in St. Petersburg or other parts of the world. You also have had training in Europe.
Yeah.
What's your background as an artist?
Well, formal training at the University of Nebraska began there, and then I was in Europe and Florence at Accademia dei Riaci, and I got a degree in sculpture actually there in '92. So the painting has been something I have just immersed myself in the last 5 years, and
So you started out sculptural?
I'm a Renaissance woman. I don't know.
Well, you're getting here pretty close now. If you can do some physics, I mean, then you and Michelangelo.
Oh, yeah. But
how did you connect with Italy? What took you over there?
I don't know, I can't even.
But you heard about a program and you wanted to get that training.
Went over to Italy, and I have to say that was probably, and my instructor there was a huge influence in my life and in helping me to understand the importance of art. And I think also the first 2 days I was in Florence, I think I just wept. I just walked through, and it was like going from Nebraska and going to Florence and having these feelings about art. I was just in heaven. So
when I can kind of understand Nebraska to Italy, what bounced you back to the Twin Cities?
I went back to Nebraska. I taught in Iowa, Nebraska, Minnesota, publicly and privately, and I've done some curriculum development. And then I quit teaching 5 years ago.
Because the art was calling.
Yeah, it was.
And coincidentally, you mentioned just as you were sitting down here that you happen to have known our previous guest, Judy Hornbacher.
Yeah, she was from Burnsville, and it just made me feel better and more relaxed to be
what a small world. That's great.
Yeah, it was good.
Now, we've got just a moment or two left. I want to make sure people know if they want to get in touch with the Theiss Gallery, there's a phone number they can call?
Yes, it's area code. We can't forget that now.
That's right. These days, it's always the area code.
So it's area code 612-92. Whoops, I was giving out my home phone number.
No, don't do that. Tell them how to get down to the gallery. Buy some art.
Yeah, thanks. It's area code 612-339-1094. And the hours, gallery hours are Wednesday through Friday, 11 to 5, and Saturday, 11 to 4.
And now, in just the remaining seconds we have, big changes in the warehouse district. What are you seeing that's going on there in terms of art galleries?
Oh, it's really sad. I mean,
Yeah.
it's, things are, I think it's sad to me, but things are moving, and in a city like this, if it's bound to happen, it's, I liken it to an adolescent, and it's moving and growing in other directions. But artists, architects, photographers, and galleries being forced to compete with corporations and major restaurants for rent and the like, and it's,
they're having to find new places.
Yeah, they're having to move out, and I most likely will, I want to say we're most likely will be doing the same thing in September, but the gallery and the stable of artists is intact, and will
All
be,
the folks you mentioned and more.
yes, and
right?
more.
Well,
we will
thanks.
be moving, and I'll let you know where we go.
Well, please do, yeah. We'll announce your new space.
thank you.
Kellie Rae, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you on the
Okay.
show. Now, on Artifacts, we feature actual performance. We like to do that. And by the way, we don't run credits or sponsor promos over the art either. Next up, poet Gary Melom reads from his continuing series, Bus Stuff. Stay tuned.
The Graceful Bus. I tell you, we have achieved grace. All of us ugly ducklings who do not drive, we have tasted grace, have taken it into our hearts, and now ride around with flowers, with smiles. Unlikely vessels, not the picture of contentment. We have breathed rare air. We have celebrated without changing, with only having filled some cavity in our lives. This is the sweetest moment, knowing we must ask always if our companion others are blessed as well. And is this their stop? This one's titled, Oh Mary. My bus drove through the dusky sweet aroma of your 35 years ago hair, through the fern-dusted persistence of that long ago future, the dances, the walks, the drive, the glances, the arcing rows of biology spanning theosophies of small-town Catholics and Lutherans, and failing like any living thing in arid, unseasoned nature, you are the first important person I let slip away into the mists of ease, into the push and pull of difference. Imagine my surprise to find you resident in the not-so-bad wig of the fat woman sitting in front of me. Bow-legged. He was just a bow-legged old guy, all denim and mustache and hat, little bitty boots and big hands. He looked like he'd spent his formative years in the saddle. But it was just Ricketts in Minneapolis and him playing the cards he was dealt and going out to Laramie once a year for stories. Bussing the truth. Did we sometime enter the unhinged door, the smaller space, the slipping year declared without our hearing? Have we passed indifferently into a time in which old women ride quietly among the whores, who chatter nervously, and the angry men who shift when brushed by passers-by in the aisle, lifting themselves away into transparency? Did we not see them get on? When did they get on? Who gave us these false mirrors? Dawn. Science will have its say about this dawn's alchemical sky, the illumining cloud's passage from black to gold, then blue to gray. We who rose from sleep with the tastes of other worlds in our mouths, the edges of our bodies indeterminate, unnecessary. We who rose to the day like beautiful carp, who have blazed burnished at bus stops and in our own dawn tasks have made observation of the spaces in life's elements. We who concoct our own sciences of change from out of possibility's void, we now blinking, dense in the light, wouldn't we run to work had not the day made us so clumsy and reduced our abundant dance to this is how it is? Traffic. So he looks up at the bus and he says, what? You got someplace you gotta be? Dawn ghosts. It was more than incense you took with you in your escape. More than aromatic cedar and fresh bread. All these and more ride with you like a friendly old sister, whispering the secrets of time and place at each stop when breezes leave the bus through open windows. These are the ways I know you without looking up, these contradictions. I imagine you in cheap clothing and settled frowns, your mincing little steps, the helmet of your sprayed short hair. It was more than a hidden life you pulled through the bus. It was more than mystery that impelled your escape. It had to do with light, the way the sun destroys your secret each dawn, burning it off like a fog, so I don't look up.
Well, Gary Melom, that's very nice.
Thanks.
There's a lot going on in your poems. First, the thing I noticed is I love the characterization. You get me thinking about these people that you're encountering or that you're talking about, and that draws me in. And then you have some nice things to say about people. And the cadences. This is the first time I've heard your poems. I've read a number of your poems, but it's really nice. What inspires you for these poems?
Oh, the bumps on Lyndale Avenue.
As the bus is going over them? Or?
There you go.
Yeah?
Right, yeah, there's a rhythm in the road that they're changing now, as you've read.
Well, indeed. So that's going to change your poetry.
Yeah, it'll be smooth.
That's really great. How long have you been writing poetry?
Oh, a long time. Never seriously until just recently, really? Trying to turn it into a discipline.
Well, as I mentioned, I think earlier, this is actually part of what I call at least a series. Am I accurate in saying that you call bus stuff? It's kind of a continuing oeuvre of work?
Whatever occurs to me on the bus gets tossed into one folder.
Does it usually start with a person? Somebody comes in? I mean, your characterization of some of these folks.
Something happens.
Yeah.
Most of this comes from people that I have ridden with from time to time or regularly.
And then sometimes you wrap some big thoughts around it.
Make stuff up, yeah.
Gary, it's very, very pleasant to have you on the show.
Well, it's great. Thank you
very much. That's great. Now stay tuned. I'll be back to wrap up the show in just a moment after one final look at our time working with Janet Zahn.
Coming up on Artifacts, an illuminating interview with one of the world's foremost modern architects, Ralph Rapson.
Plus, previews of two awesome April events, the Minnesota Music Academy's Icebreaker and the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Film Festival. Right here, right now, on Artifacts.
That was good.
Well, we'll miss working with you, Janet. And also special thanks to our crew, John Harrison in particular, for pulling those artifacts out of the vault. Now, at this point in the show, we usually do a little chat here. I want to mention, for those of you who are into new music and new jazz, there's a bit of a celebration going on over at KFAI. Richard Paskey has been doing a show called Fresh Ears. That's on Fresh Air. His Fresh Ears show celebrates 20 years on the air. June 29th, they're having a big event over there. It's among the longest-running new music programs in the nation, and congratulations. Job well done. Also, in our calendar events at the end of the show, I think we mentioned something going on at the Northern Clay Center. This is something I just got in after we did that. They always have featured artists at the Northern Clay Center each month, and for those of you who know about Peter Leach, you might want to make a note. He's going to be one of their featured ceramic artists in the month of August. That's over on Franklin Avenue in the Seward neighborhood in South Minneapolis. And now this has nothing to do with the arts, but I thought it's something you should know. I got this from my health maintenance organization, and it says, "Nice Doggy, How to Reduce the Risk of Dog Bites." And I just thought their first couple of points were important to know. Don't run past a dog. It's his natural instinct to catch prey, and you could be it. And if a dog threatens, don't scream. So I just wanted you to know that. Now, next month, we'll have Gina Filigenzi's first field report. And if you have any suggestions for future topics, whether it's for Gina to go out and cover or for us here on Artifacts, call our City Cable 34 hotline. That's 612-673-2234. Coming up at the end of the show, our events calendar. And by the way, I wanted you to note all the different neighborhoods that are listed throughout the city. We've got arts events going on in West Bank, in the Seward neighborhood, the Central neighborhood, Lowry Hill, downtown, East Harriet. The list goes on. There's stuff going on all over. Hope you enjoyed this month's edition of Artifacts. We'll see you next time. Thanks.
speaking of talent, that's what this show is all about. There are thousands of very talented people in this town who are working in the film, video, and recording industries. And every time you see this show, you are going to see some samples of that talent. And we're going to start right now. Roll the tape. Hot makeup tips for that cool look. Or divorce. Everything you wanted to know about divorce but couldn't afford to ask. How about the art of meeting men? Girls, huh? How about that one? How to beat a speeding ticket. Didn't know there was a tape about that, did you? And one of my favorites, playing bridge with Omar Sharif. To get you thinking about maybe becoming a student again, perhaps taking that film or recording class you've always wanted to take. Or how about learning more about your home video camera so you can really capture the essence of your family vacation this summer? So I was playing baseball with my husband Jeff and my stepson Eric, who is 13 years old and learning to be a pitcher. And I was the catcher. Next thing you know, fast, low-flying pitch bounces off the home base plate, and it bounced right into my eye. Thus, the big shiner. I can do it. We'll just do the show with the shiner, and such is life.
And we're very excited with this edition of Artifacts to start some new features here. Most of all, I'd like to welcome Janet Zahn. Those of you who've been in the city of Minneapolis watching City Cable 34, you've been lucky enough to see her for the last few years as the host and producer of Sound Image.
John Ritter.
Back when he had a career.
Yeah. Oh. No, really. Yeah.
Well, you think I should start wearing ties again?
No, I kind of like that. Very nice handshake there, Phil. Coming up on Artifacts, an illuminating interview with one of the world's foremost modern architects, Ralph Rapson.
Plus, previews of two awesome April events, the Minnesota Music Academy's Icebreaker and the Minneapolis-St. Paul International Film Festival. Right here, right now, on Artifacts.